My name is Rachel Carter. I was 28 years old the day my mother chose a backyard barbecue over my doctorate graduation. I remember standing in a cramped bathroom stall at Johns Hopkins, balancing my phone between my shoulder and cheek so my tears wouldn't smudge the makeup I'd done myself. Outside the door, I could hear the muffled roar of the crowd, the booming voice calling names, the crackle of microphones. Inside, all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears and my mother's voice saying, "We already ate, honey." I stared at the text for a full minute before I could even process it. We already ate. A picture followed. A long, folding table in my parents' backyard, loaded with trays of ribs and brisket, people laughing with red Solo cups in their hands, and my older brother at the grill like some sort of hometown celebrity. The caption read, "So proud of you, E, best pit master in the city." No, good luck, Rachel. No, we're on our way. Just smoke, meat, and a celebration I wasn't invited to. My fingers shook as I hit call. "Mom?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "You know my ceremony starts in 10 minutes, right?" I could hear music and chatter in the background, the sizzle of the grill, someone shouting my brother's name. "Oh, honey, don't be so sensitive," she said, like I'd just complained about the weather. "We're doing something special for your brother today. He booked a city food critic. We can watch your ceremony on the live stream later." I swallowed hard. "It's my doctorate, Mom. 8 years. You promised you'd be here." There was a pause, and then my father's voice cut in, louder, impatient. "Rachel, don't be dramatic. Your brother's worked hard too. We can't be everywhere at once." That was the moment something inside me snapped. I looked at my reflection. Cap, gown, honor cords, the life I'd built with no help from them, and realized I had been an extra in my own family's story for 28 years. That was the last phone call I ever made as Rachel Carter. Before I tell you what I did next, and how one decision turned my family's beloved barbecue empire into the center of a public scandal, tell me, what time is it where you are, and what are you doing while you listen? I want to see just how far this story travels compared to the little backyard where mine almost ended. If you've ever been the responsible one in a family that worships someone else, you already know how the small cuts start long before the big betrayal. By the time I was standing in that bathroom, I'd lived 28 years of being the second-choice Carter. My parents built their entire identity around smoke and sauce. Carter's Backyard Barbecue wasn't just a restaurant, it was our family religion. My brother could burn a rack of ribs and my mom would still gush, "Look at him, he's a natural." I brought home science fair trophies, full-ride scholarships, and published research. And the most I got was, "That's nice, honey. Don't forget to help your brother at the register tonight." While my brother learned how to charm food bloggers, I learned how to chart infection curves and write grant proposals. While they bragged about E's famous brisket to anyone who would listen, they couldn't remember the name of my dissertation advisor. So no, that phone call didn't come out of nowhere. It was just the first time I truly heard what they'd been saying all along. "You will never be our main event." I walked out of that bathroom before I could talk myself into apologizing. The event coordinator was already motioning people toward the line that curled behind the stage. Other graduates clustered with parents and siblings, people straightening one another's caps, fixing collars, snapping tearful selfies under the banners. I walked alone, hugging my file folder like it might fly away. One of my classmates glanced around me and frowned. "Hey, your family running late?" I smiled in that tight, automatic way you learn when you don't want to explain your whole life. "They're watching from home." "That sucks," she said bluntly. "You're the smartest one in the cohort. They should be front row." Her words stung because they were so simple and so true. Have you ever had a stranger value you more in one sentence than your own family has in years? I took my seat, the empty row of chairs behind me feeling louder than the entire arena. When the dean started calling names, I listened to the thunder of applause and thought, maybe this is just how it's going to be. I'll keep doing the work, and they'll keep grilling ribs. Then my name boomed through the speakers. Rachel Carter, Doctor of Public Health, Epidemiology, and Data Science. I walked across that stage to polite cheers from faculty and friends, and zero from the people whose approval I'd been chasing since I could talk. When the dean handed me my diploma case and leaned in for the photo, he murmured, "Congratulations, doctor. Your work is going to save a lot of lives." That was the moment something cracked wider than just hurt feelings. If my research could save strangers, why was I still burning myself trying to be seen by people who didn't even show up? After the ceremony, while other graduates disappeared into the swirl of flowers and hugs, I ducked into a side hallway with my phone. The Carter family group chat was flooded with pictures from the barbecue. My brother in front of a giant banner, "Ethan Carter, King of Smoke." Comments from relatives, "So proud of our star." "Can't wait to come by the restaurant." Not a single message about my degree. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, then dropped. I opened a different app, the one I'd bookmarked months ago but never had the courage to use. It was a legal name change form. I stared at the blank fields, then slowly typed, "New name, Naomi Lane." It was a name I'd scribbled in the margins of my notebooks for years, the name I always thought I'd use someday, when my real life starts. Standing there in my doctoral gown, diploma case under my arm and barbecue smoke practically seeping through my phone screen, I decided that someday was now. By the time the sun set on my graduation day, Rachel Carter was already fading like smoke. I spent the evening not at a fancy dinner or a family party, but at my tiny apartment kitchen table, laptop open, paperwork spread out between a frozen pizza and an overdue electricity bill. Glamorous, I know, but there was something sacred about the silence. No sizzling meat, no clinking beer bottles, no relatives calling my brother my pride and joy while I refilled their iced tea. Just the hum of the fridge and the steady tap of my fingers as I rewrote my own existence. If you've never been through a legal name change, let me tell you, it's a strange mix of bureaucracy and rebirth. I filled out forms, printed affidavits, booked an appointment at the courthouse. Under reason for change, I typed, "Personal and professional identity." What I wanted to write was, "Because I am done being the background character in a restaurant commercial." I posted one picture from the ceremony on my private Instagram, a simple shot of me in my gown, cap in my hands, stage behind me already half disassembled. The caption read, "Dr. Lane, coming soon." A few friends commented with confusion and then excitement. "Wait, are we changing names now? Dr. Lane sounds like a superhero." One DM stood out. It was from my grad school friend Jenna, who had moved to Seattle a year earlier to work at a health tech startup. "Lane, huh? I like it. Still taking that interview with Northwatch Analytics?" I had almost forgotten. Weeks earlier, I'd applied to a position at Northwatch, a company using real-time data to detect disease outbreaks before they exploded. They'd liked my dissertation on foodborne illness modeling and offered an interview after graduation. At the time, I hesitated. Moving from Baltimore to Seattle felt huge, leaving my family's city, my childhood streets, the restaurant where I'd bussed tables since I was 12, terrifying. After that barbecue phone call, the decision felt like oxygen. I messaged Jenna back, "Yeah, I'm in, completely." The next morning, I woke up to two notifications, one from the court. My hearing for the name change was scheduled. The other from Northwatch. "We'd like to formally offer you the position of Senior Epidemiological Data Scientist, pending your start date." I stared at the screen and laughed out loud, the sound raw and disbelieving. The universe wasn't being subtle. Within a month, Rachel Carter was a legal footnote and Dr. Naomi Lane had a one-way plane ticket to Seattle. I told my parents in the least dramatic way possible. A short email. I graduated today. I'm changing my name for professional reasons and taking a job in Seattle with a public health data company. I wish you all the best with the restaurant. It was polite, distant, and very unlike the Rachel who had once sent 15-paragraph emails explaining her feelings. My mom wrote back 2 days later. Seattle? That's far. We thought you'd come home and help Ethan expand the business. You know your brother could really use your brains for the numbers side. Anyway, congrats on the degree. We're busy getting ready for the summer festival. Huge opportunity for him. We'll talk later. My father's contribution was a thumbs-up emoji in the family chat. My brother didn't reply at all. If you've ever waited for an apology that never came, you know exactly how that emptiness feels. So I packed my life into 3 suitcases and a carry-on. On my last night in the city, I wrote a letter I never mailed. Dear Mom and Dad, it began, one day you're going to realize that your daughter became a doctor and you weren't there. One day you're going to need my help, and for the first time in my life, I'm not sure I'll pick up the phone. I signed it. Love, Naomi, folded it, and tucked it into the back of my journal. It wasn't for them, it was for me. A line in the sand. A promise that I was no longer going to chase people who wouldn't even cross a parking lot for me. When the plane lifted off the runway and the city shrank beneath me, I watched the lights blur and thought, okay, Dr. Lane, let's see who you get to be when no one is calling you just Ethan's sister anymore. Seattle did not care who my brother was or how many trophies he had for his ribs. Seattle cared about data, and that was exactly what I needed. Northwatch Analytics occupied 2 floors of a glass building overlooking the water, all open floor plans and whiteboards covered in equations. On my first day, my manager, a woman with blue-streaked hair and permanent coffee in her hand, grinned at me and said, "We hunt ghosts in numbers here, little blips that tell us something bad is brewing before anyone else sees it. You ready to chase?" I was. I dove into streams of hospital admissions, restaurant inspection reports, social media complaints about food poisoning, and a mountain of other data sources. Our job was to spot patterns. Clusters of symptoms in neighborhoods, spikes in ER visits, that could signal an outbreak of something ugly. I loved it. It was like solving puzzles that could actually save lives. For the first time, my value was measurable in something other than how many plates I could carry at once during the dinner rush. Months passed. I learned to love the damp chill of Seattle mornings, the way the city smelled like rain and coffee instead of smoke and sauce. I made friends with coworkers who knew me only as Naomi, the epidemiologist who could stare at a spreadsheet until it confessed its secrets. When they asked about my family, I gave vague answers. We're complicated. One Tuesday afternoon, a notification popped up on my screen. Automated flags from our algorithm. There was a small but notable cluster of severe gastrointestinal cases across 3 neighboring counties. At first glance, it looked like a typical seasonal spike. But the more I zoomed in, the more uncomfortable I felt. The onset times were tight, the symptoms intense, and most disturbingly, the patients all mentioned eating at the same popular local chain in their intake notes. I pulled the restaurant name into a separate query and frowned. Carter Smokehouse, I read aloud. For a second, my brain refused to process the words. It felt like looking into a funhouse mirror. Different region, same script. Everything okay? Jenna wheeled her chair over. I tilted my screen so she could see the red dots on the map. I think we've got a cluster linked to a restaurant chain, I said carefully. Have you heard of Carter Smokehouse? Are you kidding? She snorted. They just opened a location here. People are obsessed. Their brisket line wraps around the block. Why? I clicked through more records, heart pounding faster with each one. Patients describing bloody diarrhea, vomiting, high fevers. Lab results trickling in with E. coli and salmonella hits. Because, I said slowly, if this pattern holds, they might be the source of our outbreak. We followed protocol. I escalated to my manager, documented the evidence, and prepared a preliminary report to send to the state health department. It was routine. Except nothing about it felt routine to me. When I went home that night, I couldn't stop thinking about my parents' kitchen. How many times had I watched my brother slap raw meat on the cutting board, wipe his hands on a towel, and then grab a handful of buns from an open bag? How many times had I pointed out the cross-contamination only to be told, "This is how we've always done it, Rachel. Stop overthinking everything." As the days passed, the dots on my screen multiplied. More hospitals, more patients, more mentions of Carter Smokehouse. The state health department reached out, requesting deeper analysis and all our supporting data. We weren't talking about a few upset stomachs anymore. This was an outbreak. I woke up one night in a cold sweat, my phone screen glowing in the dark above my face. On impulse, I opened the Carter family group chat, the one I hadn't checked in months. The last photo was my brother standing in front of a banner. "Coming soon, Carter Smokehouse West Coast Tour." The caption read, "Proud of our boy taking the brand national." My mother had commented, "Nobody does barbecue like a Carter." Staring at that picture, I realized something that made my stomach churn more than any food poisoning ever could. If the chain had expanded this fast, the outbreak I was looking at might just be the beginning. There's a moment when you're sitting on a piece of information that can blow up your own family's life, where every version of yourself tries to speak at once. The good daughter says, "Call them, warn them, give them a chance to fix it quietly." The scientist says, "That's not how public health works. People are already sick. Some of them are kids." The hurt child says, "They skipped your doctorate for a barbecue. Are you really about to risk your career to protect them?" I wish I could tell you I chose the right voice immediately. I didn't. I spent a week drowning in what-ifs. During the day, I refined our models, built cleaner visuals for the health department, and took calls with epidemiologists who used words like alarming and significant liability. At night, I stared at my ceiling and thought about how many birthday parties I'd worked the grill instead of attending, just to help the family. The decision crystallized the day we got a call from a pediatric ICU physician. He wanted access to our data because he had 3 children in critical condition with the same strain of E. coli, and one thing in common. They'd all eaten at Carter Smokehouse in the last week. I ended that call, walked straight to my manager's office, and shut the door. "I need to make a disclosure," I said, hands clammy. "I have a personal connection to the restaurant chain." Her eyebrows shot up. "In what way?" "My parents own the original location," I said. "My brother runs the company now." There it was, out in the open like a raw nerve. She didn't flinch. "Okay. Thank you for telling me. That means 2 things. 1, you're recused from any policy recommendations from this point forward, so there's no conflict of interest. 2, I'm going to ask you a question as a human, not as your boss. Do they know what's happening?" "No," I admitted. "We're not close." "Do you want to tell them?" I thought about the kids in that ICU, about my brother, grinning in front of banners, crowing about being the king of smoke, about my parents bragging that nobody's ever gotten sick from our food whenever I tried to talk about safe temperatures. "I want them to be held accountable," I said slowly. "If I call, it won't be to protect them. It'll be to give them a chance to do the right thing before the state forces them." She nodded. "Then call as a daughter. We'll keep doing our jobs." That night, I dialed my parents' number for the first time in almost a year. My mother answered on the second ring, her voice warm and bright. "Naomi, or are we supposed to still call you Rachel?" "Naomi is fine," I said tightly. "I don't have a lot of time. I need to talk to you about the restaurant. If this is about you refusing to come home to help, your father already said." "It's not," I cut in. Have you had any reports of people getting seriously sick after eating there? She hesitated. Well, there were a couple of complaints online. Your brother says it's just haters trying to drag his rating down. Why? My heart clenched. Because I'm working with a company that tracks disease outbreaks, and we've identified a cluster that points directly to Carter's smokehouse. People are in the hospital, Mom. Kids. There was a long silence, then a scoff. My father's voice appeared in the background. Is that Naomi? Put me on speaker. A click. Then his blunt tone filled my tiny Seattle kitchen. You're accusing your own family's business of poisoning people now? After everything we've done to build this from nothing? I'm not accusing, I said carefully. I'm telling you what the data says. You need to shut down, at least temporarily, and cooperate with the health inspectors. Clean everything, retrain staff, check your suppliers. If you're proactive, you might avoid. We're not shutting down, he snapped. Do you have any idea what that would do to our reputation? To your brother's bookings? We've got a city festival coming up. He's the headliner. This is his moment. There it was again. His moment. Not the kids in the ICU. Not the dozens of hospitalized customers. His moment. If you don't, I said quietly, the state will force you. They already have our reports. This isn't just me calling as your daughter. It's a warning from someone who actually understands how bad this can get. My brother's voice crashed into the call then, loud and incredulous. Is this seriously about you being mad we didn't come to your little ceremony? You're gonna sabotage my company over hurt feelings? It was a doctorate, I snapped, finally losing my calm. And I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm trying to stop people from getting hurt. He laughed, bitter and disbelieving. You always did think your books and numbers were more important than real life. Real life? I echoed. Real life is a mother sitting next to her kid's hospital bed because you didn't want to check your meat thermometer. Enough, my father barked. We are not discussing this. You do whatever you have to do for your job, and we'll do what we have to do for our business. But don't expect us to thank you if you help drag our name through the mud. The line went dead. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Have you ever watched someone choose their ego over the easiest chance to fix everything? That was the night I stopped hoping my family would ever be the people I needed. The next morning, I contacted a public interest law firm that specialized in whistleblower cases. If the Carters wanted a war between data and denial, they were about to learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet kid who used to refill the sauce bottles while you took all the credit. The state moved faster than my parents ever believed they would. Within 2 weeks, inspectors had quietly visited multiple Carter smokehouse locations, taken samples, interviewed staff, and connected more lab results. The outbreak, once a cluster of red dots on my screen, was officially declared. Local news stations ran segments warning people who had eaten at Carter's smokehouse to monitor for symptoms. My brother responded the way he always did, with swagger. He posted a video standing in front of the flagship restaurant, apron on, grill flaming behind him. We take food safety extremely seriously at Carter's Smokehouse, he said, flashing his TV smile. We feed our own family here. Don't believe everything you see on the news. Haters are gonna hate, but we're not going anywhere. Thousands of likes, heart emojis. Tell him, chef, comments. I watched the clip from my office in Seattle, a bitter taste in my mouth. My manager paused by my desk. Health department wants us to keep monitoring social chatter, she said. There's talk the company's trying to spin this as a smear campaign. Of course they are, I muttered. The timing of the next event felt like a sick joke. A week after that video, my mother sent a message to my personal email with the subject line, Thanksgiving? Inside she wrote, We know things have been tense, but family is family. Why don't you come home for Thanksgiving? It'd be good PR too. Show everyone we're united. Ethan's hosting a huge community cookout that day instead of a traditional dinner. City officials will be there. Reporters, bloggers. Big opportunity. Come support your brother. Maybe we can talk. I must have read that email 20 times. Good PR. Not, we miss you. Not, we're scared about this outbreak and we're sorry we didn't listen. They wanted to use my presence, my doctorate, my shiny new life as a prop in their redemption tour. Part of me wanted to hit delete and never look back. Another part, the part that had changed her name and moved across the country, recognized an opening. If you want people who built their empire on public image to finally face the truth, what better place than a stage they created for themselves? I wrote back, I'll be there. Thanksgiving Day, the sky over my hometown was a flat, cold gray, the kind that made smoke hang low over the streets. I hadn't been back since the graduation fiasco. Walking up to Carter's Smokehouse felt like stepping into a time capsule. Same red-checked tablecloths, same neon pig sign, same smell of hickory and spice. But there were new things too. Banners about commitment to safety, hand sanitizer stations, staff wearing branded gloves. All theater, with no mention of the hospitalizations that had forced these changes. My brother spotted me from the makeshift stage set up in the parking lot. He wore a custom chef's coat with his name stitched in cursive. Naomi, you made it. He boomed into the mic, pulling me into a side hug. Everyone, this is my sister, the doctor. She's here to show that real science is on our side. The crowd clapped politely. I stepped back, the urge to roll my eyes nearly uncontrollable. My mother fluttered behind him, whispering, "Just smile, honey. Let people take pictures. This is important for us." "Is it important for the families in the ICU?" I asked quietly. Her face tightened. "You really are determined to ruin this, aren't you?" "No," I said. "I'm determined to tell the truth." The event began like a twisted festival. Free samples, live music, local officials shaking hands, news cameras circling. My brother strutted, tossing phrases like unfounded allegations and "we passed all our inspections" into every interview. I watched, arms folded, until my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We're here. 10 minutes." It was from the state health investigator I'd been coordinating with through the law firm. We'd provided data, timelines, and internal documentation showing that Carter Smokehouse had been warned and chose to keep operating at full capacity anyway. When the health department decided to serve official shutdown orders, they asked, "Do you want to be present?" I said yes, not for revenge porn, not for drama, but because I needed my family to see my face when the consequences of their choices finally caught up. 10 minutes later, the music cut out mid-song. A small cluster of officials in suits and state-branded jackets walked toward the stage, flanked by cameras. The crowd murmured, confused. My brother's smile flickered. Looks like we've got some special guests," he joked weakly. The lead investigator stepped up to the mic, holding a folder thick with papers. "Good afternoon," she said. "I'm here on behalf of the State Health Department, after a comprehensive investigation into the recent multi-jurisdictional outbreak of E. coli and Salmonella. We have determined that Carter Smokehouse is a primary source. Effective immediately, all Carter Smokehouse locations are ordered to cease operations pending further notice. Failure to comply will result in additional fines and potential criminal charges." You could feel the air get sucked out of the parking lot. People gasped. Someone shouted, "My kid got sick here." Another voice yelled, "I knew it." My mother went pale. "There must be some mistake," she stammered, pushing toward the investigator. "We're a family business. We would never—" The woman's expression didn't soften. "Ma'am, we have lab results, employee testimony, and documented warnings that went unheeded." She glanced past my mother directly at me. "We also have independent analytic reports that helped us track this quickly. Thanks to those, we may have prevented additional hospitalizations. My brother turned on me like a storm. You did this, he hissed. No microphone now, just raw fury. You brought them here. No, I said calmly, my voice steady in a way it had never been at family dinners. Your food safety practices brought them here. I just refused to look away. We're your family, my mother cried. How could you side with strangers over us? I looked at the crowd, the parents holding kids close, the reporters scribbling, the staff whispering among themselves. Those strangers trusted you not to poison them, I said. You treated that trust like it was disposable. You skipped my doctorate for a barbecue, and now your barbecue is the reason someone else's child might never graduate from anything. For once, there was no quick comeback. No, you're being dramatic. No, stop exaggerating. Just 3 Carters on a stage, finally outnumbered by the truth. The fallout was exactly what my parents had been terrified of, and exactly what they had chosen by ignoring every warning. Within weeks, Carter Smokehouse was all over the news, and not for my brother's famous brisket. Headlines screamed about beloved local chain linked to outbreak, families demanding justice, and years of ignored safety complaints. As more employees came forward, stories ripped through the illusion of family values. Managers ordered to serve meat that hadn't reached safe temperatures, pressure to keep the line moving even when staff noticed spoiled product. Corners cut on cleaning to save money. Civil suits piled up. The health department levied fines so steep they might as well have been demolition charges. My brother lost his sponsorship deals, his TV cooking segment, his food festival bookings. Awards that had once been displayed inside glass cases on the restaurant wall were quietly packed away when organizers revoked them under ethical review. My parents had to sell 2 of the 3 houses they'd bought during the boom years just to cover legal fees. If you're waiting for me to say I felt satisfied watching all that, here's the complicated truth. I didn't feel the simple, gloating revenge high you get in movies. What I felt was something deeper and heavier, a grim relief that the universe was finally operating on a logic I understood. Actions had consequences, ignored warnings had costs. My data had never just been numbers on a screen, they were people's lives. And now everyone could see that. The whistleblower case went through quietly behind the scenes. Because I had documented everything properly and disclosed my conflict of interest early, I wasn't just protected. I was eligible for a portion of the penalties collected from the company as a result of our early detection. One day, an email arrived from the law firm with a number so large I blinked 3 times before accepting it was real. It was more money than I had ever imagined having in my own name. Not my brother's, not my parents', mine. I thought about buying a fancy car or some dramatic symbol of success. Instead, I did something that would have made teenage Rachel cry from disbelief. I started a nonprofit, the Line Cook Project, a foundation offering free food safety training, legal resources, and whistleblower support for low-wage restaurant workers who noticed dangerous practices but were terrified to speak up. We partnered with Northwatch to make our educational material data-driven and accessible. We ran workshops in multiple states. We helped workers file anonymous complaints when their managers told them to serve pink chicken or skip sanitizer refills. We made noise where silence had once kept people sick. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same empire that had treated me like unpaid labor was now funding a movement to protect other workers from bosses like my family. My parents tried to call a few times. At first, I let the calls go to voicemail. My mother's messages swung between anger and begging. How could you do this to us? Became, we're still your parents. Became, we just want to talk. My father left one message that chilled me. You destroyed your brother. Are you happy now, doctor? You always were too big for this family. I didn't call back. What could I possibly say that reality hadn't already shown them? Months later, I received a letter in the mail, actual paper with my name written in my mother's looping handwriting, Dr. Naomi Lane. Inside, she wrote that they were closing the original Carter smokehouse indefinitely, that they'd lost almost everything, that my brother wasn't speaking to anyone, was drinking too much, was saying the world had turned on him. Finally, in one line scrawled near the bottom, she admitted, "Maybe we should have listened to you earlier. Maybe we should have gone to your graduation." I sat with that letter for a long time, not because it healed anything. It didn't. There was no real apology, no understanding of the years they'd spent treating me like a backup singer in the Ethan Carter show, but because it confirmed what I had needed to know since I stepped into that bathroom stall in my doctoral gown. I had been right to choose myself. Eventually, I wrote back a short note. "I'm sorry for the pain everyone is going through. I never wanted people to get hurt, but they were already being hurt. I chose to stand with them instead of protecting a lie. I hope one day you understand that. I am open to conversations that are honest and take responsibility. I am not open to pretending none of this happened. Naomi." I didn't hear back, and for the first time in my life, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. Here's the lesson I wish someone had told me when I was 18, scrubbing sauce off restaurant tables and dreaming of something bigger. Blood is not a free pass to hurt you without consequence. Family is not a magic word that erases harm. Love that demands you stay small is not love. It's control. Your worth is not measured by how loudly your parents cheer at your milestones, or whether your siblings' achievements are louder than yours. Your worth is in the quiet persistence of your effort, the integrity of your choices, and the courage it takes to walk away when staying means betraying yourself or others. I didn't burn my family's empire down out of spite. I turned on the lights in a kitchen they insisted was spotless, even as people got sick at their tables. In doing so, I finally stepped out of the smoke and into my own life. So if you're listening to this and thinking about all the ways you've been made to feel invisible, at dinners where your plate is empty while everyone praises somebody else, at graduations where no one shows up for you, at jobs where your ideas are used but your name is left off the credits, hear this. You are allowed to stop chasing people who refuse to see you. You are allowed to choose your own last name, your own city, your own mission. You are allowed to say, "I won't keep quiet just because we share DNA." And if anyone ever tells you you're being dramatic for demanding basic respect, remember this. The people who benefit from your silence will always call your truth an overreaction. Speak it anyway. Someone's life might depend on it, especially your own. Thank you for listening. I'll be honest, I really respect Naomi. She didn't just sit in her pain and stay the forgotten daughter forever. She used her education, her skills, and her backbone to protect innocent people, even when it meant standing against her own family. That's not cruelty, that's courage. She didn't ruin their lives for fun. She simply refused to stay silent while others were getting hurt. Now, I want to hear from you. If you were in Naomi's place, would you have exposed the restaurant or stayed quiet for family loyalty? And have you ever had to choose between doing the right thing and keeping the peace with someone you love? Tell me your story in the comments.